Maggie heated the soup slowly. Chicken and vegetables, simple and nourishing. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, his hands wrapped around a glass of water. He hadn't spoken since entering. She didn't push. The clock on the wall ticked steadily. 7:15 p.m. The normalcy of the sound felt strange against the weight of his presence. She set the bowl before him. Steam rose between them. "Thank you," he whispered. He ate like someone who hadn't seen a proper meal in weeks. The spoon trembled in his grip. Maggie watched from the counter, her nurse's eye cataloging symptoms. Malnutrition, sleep deprivation, severe stress. The clinical observations steadied her, gave her something to grasp when emotion threatened to overwhelm. 3 bowls. He ate 3 bowls before he finally set down the spoon. "I lost everything, Mom." The words hung in the air. Maggie poured herself coffee and sat across from him. She waited. Daniel's hands moved restlessly on the table, picking at a scratch in the wood, twisting his fingers together. The wedding ring was gone, she noticed. A pale band of skin marked where it had been. The company collapsed 6 months ago. His voice was hollow. "I had investors, contracts, everything was lined up. Then the funding fell through. Just vanished." Maggie sipped her coffee. "What kind of company?" "Software, security systems for commercial buildings." He rubbed his face. "It was good, Mom. The product was solid. But the money." He stopped, his jaw clenched. "I borrowed to keep it going. Private loans, high interest, but I thought I could make it back." The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. Maggie knew about private loans. She had seen colleagues destroyed by them in the 80s, desperate to cover medical school debts or family emergencies. "How much?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked at his hands. "A lot." "How much, Daniel?" He shook his head. I shouldn't have come here. I just didn't know where else." "How much?" Silence. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car passed, its headlights sweeping across the kitchen wall. $3.5 million. The number landed like a physical blow. Maggie's fingers tightened around her mug. $3.5 million. An impossible sum. The kind of debt that crushed lives, destroyed futures. "They're looking for me," Daniel continued, words spilling faster now. "The loan company sent people. Not lawyers, Mom. Real people. They came to the apartment. They know where I worked, his voice cracked. "I can't go back there." Maggie processed this. Men who weren't lawyers. Threats. Her son in danger. "Where's Jessica?" The question dropped like a stone into deep water. Daniel's entire body tensed. He stared at the table. "Daniel, where is your wife?" "I don't know." 3 words, flat and final. Maggie studied his face, the way his eyes refused to meet hers, the tension in his shoulders. In 33 years of nursing, she had learned to read what people didn't say. "When did you last see her?" 2 months ago. She left? A bitter laugh escaped him. "Yeah, she left." The story was forming in Maggie's mind, but she needed him to say it. Needed him to face it. Was she involved? With the loans? Daniel pushed back from the table. Stood. Paced to the window. His reflection in the dark glass looked like a ghost. "I'm tired, Mom. Can I just sleep? Please?" She wanted to press. Wanted answers. But she recognized the edge in his voice. The fragility of someone barely holding together. "Your room is ready." He turned, surprise flickering across his face. "You kept it?" "I kept it." Something broke in his expression then. He nodded quickly and left the kitchen. She heard his footsteps on the stairs. The creak of his bedroom door. Then silence. Maggie sat alone with her cooling coffee. $3.5 million. Men making threats. Jessica gone. The pieces were there, but the picture wasn't complete. She washed Daniel's dishes, dried them, put them away. Her hands moved through familiar motions while her mind worked. At 9:30, she climbed the stairs quietly. Daniel's door was closed. She pressed her ear to it. Soft, rhythmic breathing. He was asleep. She descended to the living room and retrieved her reading glasses. Then she returned upstairs, pausing at his door. Guilt flickered. This was wrong. An invasion of privacy. But mothers protected their children. Even grown children who shut them out. She opened the door slowly. The hinges didn't creak, she kept them oiled. Daniel lay on his side, fully clothed, on top of the covers. His face looked younger in sleep, more like the boy she remembered. His backpack sat on the floor by the bed. Maggie hesitated, then she lifted it carefully, carried it to the hallway, and closed the door behind her. In her own bedroom, she emptied the contents onto her bed. T-shirts, toiletries, a phone charger, and at the bottom, a manila envelope. Inside were papers, contracts, loan agreements. She spread them across her bedspread and began to read. The documents were dense with legal language, but certain elements emerged clearly. Daniel's signature appeared repeatedly, but other signatures appeared too on personal guarantees, on collateral agreements. Some were Daniel's, others were not. She found a photocopy of a bank statement. Joint account, Daniel Johnson and Jessica Miller Johnson. The withdrawals told their own story. Large sums, consistent dates, always when Daniel would have been at work. Another document, a lease agreement for a property in La Jolla, signed by Jessica, dated 3 months ago, just before she disappeared. Maggie's hands shook as she reached the last page. A copy of a loan application. $3.5 million. Daniel's signature at the bottom. But the handwriting on several sections, the income statements, the collateral listings, was different. Neater, more feminine. Someone had filled in false information. Someone had signed documents in Daniel's name. And Daniel, blinded by love or trust or desperation, had put his signature on papers he hadn't fully read. Maggie gathered the documents carefully, returned them to the envelope, placed it back in the backpack. She stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the dark street. A streetlight flickered at the corner, casting uncertain shadows. Her son had been used, manipulated, led into catastrophic debt by the woman he married. And now he was hiding in her home, afraid of men who wanted money he didn't have, protecting a woman who had destroyed him. Maggie had been right 5 years ago, and being right brought no satisfaction. She checked on Daniel once more before returning to her own room. His breathing remained steady, peaceful. For a few hours at least, he could rest. But tomorrow, they would need to face the truth. And the truth would hurt far worse than the hunger and exhaustion that had brought him to her door. Maggie lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind calculated and planned, falling into old patterns from years of emergency room triage. Assess the damage, prioritize the threats, find the resources. She had her modest retirement savings. Perhaps $30,000, nothing against $3.5 million. She had her house, paid off. But even that wouldn't cover a fraction of the debt. She had knowledge, experience, instincts honed over decades. And she had something else. Someone else. In the darkness, Maggie reached for her phone on the nightstand. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she needed. Frank Johnson, her younger brother, retired LAPD detective. It was too late to call tonight. But tomorrow, she would need his help. Because if Jessica Miller had done this to Daniel, she had done it before. And people like that left trails. Maggie set down the phone, closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. Her mind kept returning to the documents, the signatures, the careful manipulation that had destroyed her son's life. Daniel had come home broken. But he wasn't dead. He wasn't in jail. He was here, under her roof, where she could protect him. And Margaret Johnson, retired nurse and wounded mother, was about to become something else entirely. An avenger.